So imagine you're out there and you find like your absolute dream home on a Thursday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
The layout is perfect. The neighborhood is exactly what you've been looking for. I mean, you can basically already picture your couch in the living room.
Right, you're mentally moving in.
Exactly. So you decide to, to sleep on it. Maybe you'll call your agent on Friday to set up a quick viewing for the weekend.
Big mistake.
Right. Because by Saturday morning, before you've even had a chance to walk through the front door, the house is just gone.
It's totally gone, swallowed up.
Swallowed up by a market that simply does not sleep.
Yeah, it really is a brutal awakening for anyone entering this environment with, like, a casual mindset.
Yeah.
The speed we're talking about here completely upends the traditional, leisurely pace most people associate with buying a house.
Welcome to the deep dive. That whiplash, that realization that the residential real estate market is less of a quiet boardroom and more of an active battlefield is exactly why we're here today.
It's a great topic.
Our mission today is to decode a really fascinating source we've been reviewing. It's the Chicago Suburban Home Buying Guide. We're looking at the raw realities of pulling off what is likely the largest financial transaction of your entire life, specifically in these highly competitive areas.
Right.
Because whether you are targeting like a charming mid-century ranch in Des Plaines, a massive family property in Mount Prospect, or maybe a condo right on the Metra line, this guide argues that securing the keys is rarely about luck.
No, luck has very little to do with it. It's entirely about sequence and strategy.
And personnel, right?
Yes, personnel. That is the overriding thesis of this text. Because the complexity and the sheer velocity of this market mean that, attempting to navigate it alone is practically financial self-sabotage.
Which brings us to the first major strategic shift the guide demands. If you are sitting on your couch, just scrolling through Zillow, looking at pretty pictures of kitchen islands.
We all do it.
Oh, totally. Dreaming about the future. But if you're doing that, you're already doing it wrong.
Yeah, completely backwards.
The source dictates that before you even look at a single listing online, your absolute first move has to be assembling a specialized team.
And it feels counterintuitive to people, I think, because the natural instinct is to shop first and figure out the logistics later.
Right, like finding the shoes before you check your bank account.
Exactly. But the guide is adamant that you have to build your defensive line before you ever take the field. You need professionals who are already, entrenched in the local market dynamics to protect your interests.
Okay, let's unpack this setup because reading through it, it honestly sounds like we're assembling a crew for a heist movie.
I love that comparison.
Right. Every single person has a highly specialized job, and if you don't bring a safecracker to a bank job, you're going to fail.
You're not getting in the vault.
So in this case, the guide outlines a 4-part heist crew, essentially, and it starts with the buyer's agent.
The mastermind of the operation.
Exactly the vibe I was getting. The text calls them the captain of your dream team, your advocate, your negotiator, and like your local guide. But what really struck me is the specific sequential advice here.
Yeah.
The source says if you don't know anyone in the industry, you must find this captain first.
Right. And there's a very practical reason for that. Because a seasoned buyer's agent brings a pre-existing network with them.
Okay.
They already know the lenders who actually close on time, the attorneys who don't drag their feet, and the inspectors who are, actually thorough.
So it's a package deal.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
You aren't just hiring an individual to unlock doors for you. You're effectively hiring their entire professional Rolodex.
Wow. Okay, so the agent is the mastermind setting the strategy, but a mastermind needs capital to pull off the job.
Always.
I'm assuming the guide introduces the lender next, but given how fast you mentioned this market moves, isn't the traditional process of like getting a mortgage far too slow to be competitive?
Oh, way too slow. And that is precisely why the lender is the second critical hire long before you start touring homes. They're the financial backbone of the team.
Right.
Their job at this early stage isn't to finalize a 30-year mortgage, it's to arm you with a pre-approval letter.
The guide uses a brilliant analogy for this. It warns that you wouldn't go to the grocery store without your wallet, so you absolutely should not shop for a home without a pre-approval wallet.
It perfectly encapsulates the necessity, doesn't it?
It really does.
Sellers in high-demand suburbs like Des Plaines, they are inundated with interest. I mean, dozens of showings in a weekend.
Crazy.
If you submit an offer without a rock-solid pre-approval letter attached to it, You are effectively invisible to the seller.
Because to a seller, an unverified offer isn't real money, it's just a hypothetical wish.
Precisely. Sellers want absolute certainty. When a local lender evaluates your income,
Yeah.
your credit score, and like your debt-to-income ratio to issue that pre-approval, they are signaling to the seller that your offer has actual financial weight behind it.
All right, so we have the mastermind and the bankroller. The third character in this crew is highly specific to our geographic context, the real estate attorney.
Yes.
The guide stresses that in Illinois, retaining an attorney is not just standard practice, it is a critical defensive measure.
We have to remember that a real estate contract is an incredibly dense, legally binding document, and it has massive financial ramifications.
Right, you can't just skim it like terms of service on an app.
Exactly. You really can't. In Illinois, attorneys handle the contract review, they negotiate specific repair credits, and perhaps most importantly, they clear the title.
Which means doing the deep background check, right? To ensure you aren't accidentally inheriting a house that has, I don't know, 3 hidden loans on it from some contractor the seller never paid 10 years ago.
Risk mitigation in its purest form. You need a legal shield.
Makes sense.
And to round out the crew, the guide introduces the home inspector. This is your objective, unemotional eye.
The reality checker. Because when you walk into a house for a showing, you are looking at the natural light pouring through the windows, right?
Yeah.
Or the gorgeous hardwood floor.
You're imagining your life there, where the Christmas tree goes.
Exactly. You are absolutely not looking at the structural integrity of the HVAC system or the grading of the foundation.
And that emotional blindness is incredibly dangerous for a buyer. The inspector strips all of that away.
They don't care about the natural light.
Not at all. Their sole mandate is to crawl through the unglamorous parts of the house, the crawl spaces, the attic, and give you the raw, unvarnished facts about the physical structure, so you don't inadvertently purchase a money pit.
So the crew is assembled, the agent, the lender, the attorney, the inspector. Your pre-approval wallet is full.
Ready to go?
According to the guide, this marks the transition from preparation into active combat. You were out hunting, your agent is pulling tailored searches, getting you into private showings, and then the moment happens. You find the one.
The pivot from theory to reality. It's a huge shift.
The adrenaline spikes. You tell your agent, we want it. The guide explains that the agent immediately pulls comps.
Right. The comparable sales data.
Yeah, the recent sales data in that specific neighborhood to pinpoint exactly where your offer needs to land to be competitive, but without vastly overpaying. But an offer isn't just a purchase price, is it?
Far from it. A strong offer is a complex package. It includes the purchase price, yes, but also earnest money.
Which is like a deposit.
Yeah, a good faith deposit showing you have skin in the game. Crucially, though, the offer also outlines your contingencies.
The escape hatches.
That's the perfect term for it, escape hatches. Contingencies dictate that you agree to buy the home, provided you can secure the final financing, and provided the inspector doesn't find, a sinkhole under the garage.
Right.
They protect your earnest money if the deal implodes for a legitimate reason.
But here's where the guide introduces a tactic that completely caught me off guard. It mentions that in multiple offer situations, which seem pretty standard in this market, your lender might actually pick up the phone and call the listing agent on your behalf.
Yeah, they do.
Let me push back on that for a second. Doesn't that feel overly aggressive? It's like bringing your financial backer right onto the negotiation battlefield to flex for you.
It does sound aggressive on the surface. I completely agree. But if you look at the psychology of the seller, it is a masterstroke.
Really? How so?
Put yourself in the shoes of a seller in Mount Prospect. You are staring at 4 different offers on your dining room table, all roughly the exact same price.
Okay.
Your biggest fear, your absolute nightmare, is choosing an offer, taking your house off the active market, and then finding out 3 weeks later that the buyer's financing fell through.
Oh, because then you have to relist the house, the momentum is dead, and new buyers are going to wonder what's wrong with the property.
Exactly. They think, oh, the inspection must have been terrible. The listing agent's primary job is to advise the seller on which offer is the safest bet.
Got it.
So when your lender calls that listing agent directly, they are bypassing the paperwork and hitting that emotional need for security. The lender is essentially saying, look, I have personally underwritten this buyer. They are rock solid. If you choose our offer, we will get you to the closing table.
Wow, it is projecting overwhelming confidence to alleviate the seller's anxiety. I love that.
It works wonders.
So let's say the lender's flex works. The seller loves the reassurance. They look at the comps your agent pulled. They see the earnest money and they accept. You are officially under contract.
Yep.
You would think this is the moment you like pop the champagne, right? But the guide paints a much more stressful reality hitting you the very next morning.
Because in the Illinois market, hearing the words under contract means a very specific, very unforgiving clock has just started ticking.
The 5-day gauntlet.
The gauntlet.
The guide formally calls it the attorney review and inspection period, and it is restricted to 5 business days. 5 days to solidify a massive, life-altering transaction. The whiplash of going from the high of winning a bidding war to this intense sprint, it has to be overwhelming for a buyer.
It is easily the most fragile, high-stress window of the entire journey. Honestly, a lot of deals fall apart here, but this is precisely why you assembled that specialized team back in the preparation phase.
Right.
You, the buyer, are not the one sprinting. Your crew is deploying.
So what exactly is happening during these 5 days? The guide suggests it's basically a parallel track of intense scrutiny.
It is. On one track, you have the physical reality of the property. Your inspector is thoroughly examining every system in the home. On the parallel track, you have the legal and financial reality.
The attorneys.
Exactly. Your real estate attorney is actively exchanging contract modifications with the seller's attorney.
And these tracks intersect, right? Because if the inspector finds something concerning, say, I don't know, the roof has severe hail damage that wasn't disclosed on the listing, that information gets handed straight to your attorney.
Yes. The attorney then uses those inspection findings to formally request that the seller either fix the roof before closing or provide a financial credit so you can just fix it yourself later.
And what if the seller refuses? What if they say, no, we are selling it as is, take it or leave it?
Then the attorneys battle it out. But if an agreement cannot be reached within that strict 5-day window or, an agreed-upon extension, the contingencies we discussed earlier are triggered.
The escape hatch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The deal dies, you get your earnest money back, and you start the hunt all over again.
Man, surviving that gauntlet and coming to an agreement has to feel like a massive victory.
Oh, for sure. People are exhausted by day 5.
But as the guide transitions us into the next phase, we learn that surviving attorney review does not mean the house is actually yours yet.
Not even close.
We move from this fiery emotional negotiation period into the cold, basically algorithmic reality of the underwriting phase.
The narrative shifts completely here. You are no longer negotiating with the seller. You are now beholden to the bank.
And the bank demands an appraisal.
Yes.
The guide describes this step, but looking closely at how it functions in a hyper-competitive market, it really acts as a massive financial reality check.
A very harsh one sometimes.
Let's say you fell head over heels for that property in Des Plaines, and to beat out 5 other buyers, you aggressively offered $50,000 over the asking price. And the seller happily agreed. But the bank's algorithm doesn't care about the charm of the neighborhood or your bidding war.
Not even a little bit. The bank is about to wire hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they are using that specific house as collateral.
Right.
If you default on your mortgage, they need absolute certainty that they can foreclose, sell the property, and recoup their money.
So they send out an independent appraiser to determine the objective market value of the house, regardless of what you promised to pay the seller.
And this is where the dreaded appraisal gap becomes a crisis.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, if the appraiser determines the house is only worth the original asking price, the bank will only lend you money based on that lower number. They will not finance your aggressive $50,000 overbid.
Leaving you, the buyer, to suddenly come up with $50,000 in cash out of your own pocket to bridge that gap. Or the whole deal just collapses.
Yes. It's a terrifying bottleneck. If you don't have the cash to cover the gap and the seller won't drop the price, which they usually won't in a hot market, you're done.
Wow. It is the ultimate test of your financial foundation.
It really is. But assuming the appraisal aligns with the purchase price and the underwriting team clears all your financial documents, you finally hear what the guide refers to as the magic words.
Okay, clear to close.
Clear to close. It signifies that the bank is fully committed and the finish line is genuinely in sight.
Which brings us to the final rapid-fire steps of the journey. Just prior to sitting down and, signing your life away, you do a final walkthrough with your agent.
A very important step.
The guide notes this isn't another inspection, though. This is just verifying that the home is in the exact condition you agreed upon.
Right. You are making sure the seller didn't accidentally punch a hole in the drywall while moving their couch out. And verifying that any repairs negotiated back in the 5-day gauntlet were actually completed to standard.
And from there, you head to the title company. You sign a literal mountain of disclosures and legal documents. You wire your down payment and closing costs. And after all the strategy, all the stress, and all the sequence, you are handed the keys.
It is a remarkable logistical feat when you step back and look at all the moving parts operating in tandem.
It really is. But what I find fascinating about this source material is that after methodically walking the reader through these intense phases, it presents a fundamental strategic choice. It asks us a critical question. Given the ticking clocks and the incredibly high stakes we just talked about, who is actually best equipped to manage this process for you?
Yeah, the guide pivots from analyzing the mechanics of the market to analyzing the structure of your representation. It dedicates a whole section to exploring the solo agent versus dedicated agent team dynamic.
Because, as we established right at the beginning with that Thursday to Saturday scenario, the speed of the Chicago suburban market is the ultimate defining factor.
Speed is everything.
The guide uses that exact timeline to illustrate a dangerous vulnerability. If you are working with a traditional solo agent and they happen to be booked with another client on Thursday afternoon, or maybe they're dealing with a personal emergency, you might not get into that house until Saturday.
And by Saturday, someone else's team has already locked it down.
Exactly.
The market is entirely unforgiving of personal schedules.
Yeah.
It just doesn't care.
So the source introduces the alternative model, a dedicated real estate team. It cites the Spouses Selling Houses team at Keller Williams One Chicago as its case study for this approach. But looking past the specific agency, the guide breaks down the structural mechanics of why a team concept is designed to combat this hyper-speed environment. It lists 3 specific operational advantages.
The first advantage the text highlights is availability, which really translates to built-in redundancy.
Redundancy.
Yeah, in a team structure, if your primary contact is tied up at a closing on that crucial Thursday afternoon, the system doesn't hold.
Someone else can step in.
Exactly. Another licensed member of the team steps in, unlocks the door, and ensures you see the property before the weekend rush.
Redundancy is such a corporate concept, but it makes perfect sense here.
It does.
The second advantage the guide points to is diverse skill sets. It describes a collective brain trust. The argument is that one single person cannot realistically be a master marketer, a hyper-aggressive negotiator, and a meticulous paperwork administrator all at the same exact time.
Which feeds directly into the third advantage,
Yeah.
smoother timelines. The source emphasizes that dedicated teams usually employ back-end administrative staff whose sole responsibility is managing the calendar.
Wow, okay.
They're the ones ensuring that the strict deadlines of the Illinois 5-day gauntlet never slip through the cracks while the agents are out in the field showing homes.
Okay, I have to push back on this a bit. Because while the efficiency of that model is undeniable on paper, it raises a big question about the human element.
Sure.
For the listener preparing to buy a home, this is an incredibly personal, highly emotional life event. Does working with a highly structured, redundant team make the process feel, I don't know, sterile, like you were being passed around a corporate assembly line instead of having one dedicated, intimate guide holding your hand from start to finish?
That is the essential tension the guide is addressing, and it's a very fair point. Real estate is inherently emotional, and the desire for singular connection is completely valid. The source actually acknowledges this, explicitly stating that there are many fantastic solo agents out there. It isn't dismissing the solo model entirely.
But it is clearly pointing toward a structural shift in the industry.
It is. Because the guide's ultimate conclusion forces the reader to confront the reality of the environment they are entering. You are navigating a hustle-heavy, hyper-competitive arena. When the text argues that it takes a village, it is framing the redundancy of a team not as a cold assembly line, but as a protective shield.
A protective shield against the unforgiving speed of the market.
Exactly. The underlying philosophy here is that you might sacrifice a tiny fraction of singular handholding, but in exchange, you gain the guarantee that when the clock starts ticking, you have a coordinated logistics unit ensuring you don't lose the house on a technicality or a scheduling conflict.
Makes sense.
In a market where hours dictate outcomes, structural efficiency often has to trump absolute intimacy.
Survival over handholding.
Pretty much.
That clarifies the choice immensely. If you want the keys, you need the logistics to back up the desire. So let's just zoom out and look at the entire arc we've covered.
It's a lot.
It is. If you are stepping into the dynamic world of the Chicago suburban real estate market, this guide provides a very clear tactical blueprint. You do not start by looking at houses. You start by drafting your crew. the agent, the lender, the attorney, the inspector.
Yes.
You armor yourself with the pre-approval wallet. You leverage your lender to flex on the listing agent and secure the contract. You survive the intense parallel processing of the 5-day Illinois gauntlet. You pass the bank's brutal appraisal math, and finally, you sit at the closing table to claim your property.
It is a gauntlet, but it is entirely manageable when you strip away the emotion and focus on the strategic sequence the guide outlines.
It transforms the intimidating into the actionable.
But as we close out this analysis, there is a fascinating thread running beneath the surface of this source material that I really think you, the listener, should mull over on your own.
Oh, what's that?
We have spent this entire deep dive analyzing the emphasis on absolute speed and fierce competition.
Right, the reality that a house listed on Thursday is effectively gone by Saturday.
Exactly. And if the mechanics of the Chicago suburban market demand that level of hyperspeed, if winning requires a highly coordinated real estate team, immediate capital verification, and the ability to just drop everything on a Thursday afternoon, how does that operational barrier dictate who ultimately gets to live in these communities?
Oh, wow.
As you prepare to assemble your team and enter this arena, consider how this relentless race against the clock might slowly be acting as a filter, fundamentally changing the cultural fabric and the demographics of the very neighborhoods you are trying to call home.
That is a profound observation. The speed isn't just a logistical hurdle, it actually functions as a barrier to entry.
Exactly.
Definitely something to keep in mind as you navigate your own journey. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the realities of the home buying battlefield. Armed with this strategy, you are ready for the market. We will catch you on the next one.